Hi, guys. Welcome. If you're new here, my name is Court, and I talk about being a musician, I talk about being a father, I talk about being a husband, and this channel is sort of dedicated to all three. I do upload monthly music videos that are shot on location. I am wearing my wife's bathrobe because I forgot to turn the heat on this morning, and it's cold. Today, I just want to talk about kind of what it's like to go on tour when you have kids at home and your partner is gonna be taking care of those kids while you are off gallivanting around. So I just finished going on tour. I just wanted to report back on kind of my findings and a few things that I learned from the process. So tip number one for me was start small. That means with the band, try to involve as few people as possible for the sake of ease of transportation, for the sake of not having to do way too much coordination with rehearsals and things like that, because the rehearsal time also cuts into time that I'm able to be parenting, because they're usually in the evenings and my kids go to bed at 7:30. So if I'm not there for bedtime, it's kind of hard for my wife to put both kids down for bed on her own. And she and I sort of have this agreement that we're going to try as much as possible to be equal partners as parents. Another aspect of the start small thing was obviously we didn't want to be on the road for too long. I didn't want to be away from the kids for too long. My youngest at the time was 8 months old, and my oldest was about 2.5. I was trying to limit the scope of the tour as far as distance traveled, as far as places where maybe we would be close enough playing shows that I could still go home and help out at least in the middle of the night if babies wake up, or be there in the morning so that the kids aren't just not seeing me for days on end, because that can be hard, and that's not something that they're used to. My wife and I both work from home with our day jobs, and I also make music out here in the studio at home. So there's really a lot of dad time that my kids get, and I love being able to do that for them. We kind of decided, okay, 7 days might be too much. 3 days is probably not enough to make it worth it. So we kind of settled on this number, like 4 or 5 days. We only ended up playing 4 shows in Austin, Houston, in Arlington, actually, and in Denton. So Arlington and Denton, both close enough to Fort Worth that I could run home after the shows. I was getting home really late, but I was able to be there in the middle of the night. I got no sleep. That's another aspect of this that you should probably keep in mind. And not just because I was up partying, because I was up with kids, which is its own kind of a party. Tip number 2 would be plan even farther ahead with your tour. So most places will tell you, plan a good 6 months ahead for your tour. When it comes to trying to plan a tour with kids at home and with a partner who's going to be looking after them, I think planning even farther ahead to make sure, okay, are we coming off of some holiday travel, for instance, which we were, and that honestly was a huge mistake. We had been traveling for about 2 weeks in California and in Austin. We started the tour in Austin, so I thought, oh, this will be convenient. The kids were so unsettled having been traveling for that long. It was a lot. For the kids especially. And when it's a lot for the kids, it's a lot for the parents. So I would say definitely plan ahead, make sure that there's no travel happening for at least 2 weeks before and after if you can. Keep it reasonable, and remember that if you have young kids like I do, like a 2-year-old, they live for consistency. They like to push boundaries, but they live for the consistency. An 8-month-old, okay, don't even try. You know what I mean? Don't break up the routine for that long if you don't have to. The next thing I wanted to talk about was sort of setting goals. So if you're going to plan a tour, make sure that you know why you're doing it. Are you trying to get more fans? Are you trying to make money? Are you trying to move a bunch of merchandise? Are you trying to get your music out there and exposure? And don't say all of them. Have a specific goal in mind, because when you go to talk to your partner about this, they want to have a decent idea of why you're doing this. If you're just doing it for fun, it's kind of a lot to ask of a partner. Make sure you know why you're going on tour, and then you can sort of plan accordingly and make sure that you're communicating that clearly to your partner. And, this sort of ties into the next one, which is make sure it's worth it. Make sure it's worth putting all of your family through all of this stuff. Make sure it's worth putting yourself through all this stuff, because for me, at least as a young parent, I don't get much sleep anyway. So to put a lot of driving and a lot of extra stress for planning this tour, trying to make things happen, getting rehearsed, getting ready, all of that on top of getting very little sleep and trying to, be with kids as much as possible during the day. It was a lot. So make sure that it's worth it. In retrospect, I would say for the experience and for the fact that like my band now I think is a lot tighter than it was, I think it was worth it. As far as like gaining new fans, I did gain some new fans, so that was exciting, and made some good relationships with venues. So if and when I'm able to do it again, I think it's going to go even better. The next one I wanted to talk about is stick to your itinerary. So that's something that I really wish I had done that I didn't do, and I kind of regret it. It was a lot to coordinate with different people to say, okay, where are we all meeting up? When are we trying to get there? What time are we going? All that kind of stuff. And if you're on your own, it's not such a big deal to try and do that. But when I'm trying to communicate those things to my wife and kids so that my wife knows, okay, what time am I going to be home? Or like, when am I going to be able to be home? Or when am I going to be able to talk on the phone? When am I going to be able to check in? She wants to make sure I'm going to be okay because I'm driving hours and hours and hours on 72 hours of no sleep, because that's just life. Just because you're on tour doesn't mean you're necessarily on vacation. To me, I have to look at it as like I'm at work. An itinerary that I can stick to and that I can share with her would have been really helpful. Didn't do that, totally failed. And she's pretty go with the flow anyway, but honestly, it probably would have helped. The last thing ties into the previous one, which is communicate clearly. First and foremost, of course, communicate clearly with your partner. One of the things that I really fell short on was communicating clearly with the kids, especially my older daughter. She's 2.5. She understands that I am or am not going to be somewhere. She doesn't really have a clear concept of number of days. So I think if I had spent more time working to try and communicate that stuff with her, it might not have been quite as hard on her. It's a lot to ask of kids to go without seeing a parent for days on end. And I think if I had been able to communicate that more clearly, or if I had been able to set up a way for us to sort of video chat and stuff like that when I was on the road, that might have been really helpful. I think I did a pretty good job communicating with Whitney. She might feel otherwise, but she knew what the plan was. She knew more or less when and where I was going to be. And if things changed up, I made sure that, someone in the car was able to text her on my phone. I think it's important to check in. This is not something that Whitney expects of me. This is not something that she asks of me. It's something that I feel a responsibility to do, because if you're going to be on the road, if you're going to be away, then the least you can do is stay in touch. Checking in a really empathetic way, and not just saying hey, I'm checking in because I have to. Check in because you want to. And if you don't want to, then maybe ask yourself why. Maybe you need to address some things in your home life if you feel like you need a vacation away from your family. I don't know. That's none of my business. Going on tour once is fun, but it's not helpful. You're going to have to go out. You're going to have to keep doing it. The best way you can make sure you have a partner who's on board with it is by keeping your partner happy. Plan ahead, try to really prepare, and really communicate clearly. There are special considerations that your band has to make when you have kids at home. I can't be out super duper duper late, or hey, we might have to change up some cities on the tour to make sure that I can be closer to home if I need to get there, when I need to get there. I might have to have my own transportation because I'm not going to be able to ride with you guys and get back at 3 a.m. I need to get back earlier than that, whatever it is. Those are important things to communicate as well. Make sure that you've got all that stuff squared away, know who's going where, how they're getting there, when-ish they're going to arrive. From a husband and father standpoint, make sure that you're communicating clearly with your spouse and your children. And don't underestimate how difficult it is for your kids when you're away. It's easy to sort of think that, oh, they're used to it. And maybe they are, but that doesn't make it any easier. Hopefully you're able to help everyone just kind of stay happy when they're at home. Okay, guys, I know that was a lot. That was way more than I was expecting to talk. I didn't think I had that much to say, but I'm really glad you stuck around and listened. If you got any sort of value out of this, if you thought it was entertaining, if you thought it was helpful as a parent or soon-to-be parent who wants to try and continue making music, then I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe down below, maybe hit that little thumbs up button, tap the bell so you get notifications when I put out new videos. I'm going to be talking a lot more about this kind of stuff, about parenting, about being a musician, about kind of music career things, and then also about being a good partner. I think those are all really important things, and I don't see a lot of people talking about them because I think the bar is pretty low for men, and I think we can raise it. So anyway, that's it for me. Thank you very much. I'll see you back here next week. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Hi.
Hi.
Hi. This is Elliot, and this is
Camille.
Camille. And how old is Camille?
2.
Camille is 2. Yeah, and Elliot is 9 months old. Do you want to say hello?
Hello.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing good.
You're doing good.
Yeah. Thank you for watching.
Perfect.